Welcome to Subject to Discipline, presented by the State Board of Education Licensed Discipline Team. During this presentation, we will discuss SBE Rule 0520-02-03-.09, which governs the discipline of educator licenses. Before we hop into our rule, I want to point your attention to some resources that are available to you. First, an overview of the educator license discipline process is available online at www.tn.gov/SBE/licensure. That can be found at the tab being highlighted presently. TN.gov/SBE under the Rules and Policies tab. As a reminder, every educator licensed or permitted by the state of Tennessee is subject to these rules no matter the setting in which they teach. Additionally, every director who employs an educator who is licensed or permitted by the state of Tennessee is required to report behaviors or incidents that would be a violation of the rule, as we will discuss today. Jumping right into our rule, there are 18 sections. Today, we are going to go primarily through sections 1 through 5 and highlight portions of some other sections. The sections that we will discuss are as follows: definitions, which outline critical terms used throughout the rule, notification to the state board by directors, the authority of the board to discipline, automatic revocations and suspensions, and disciplinary actions, which are the ranges associated with the categories and behaviors outlined above. Definitions. This section outlines the types of offenses or behaviors, the types of discipline, and other important terms necessary for understanding the rule. First, let's look at the conduct outlined in definitions, which are as follows. First, inappropriate communication, both explicit and non-explicit, inappropriate physical contact, and inappropriate physical contact with Inappropriate physical contact is unlawful or unjustified physical contact with a student. This includes both sexual contact as well as things like tickling, horseplay, or roughhousing. Inappropriate physical contact with harm is distinguished by any inappropriate physical contact as described above that causes physical or mental harm. Inappropriate physical contact is our second highest type of conduct reported, often showing up in the form of improper restraint of special education students, and sometimes the inappropriate or improper isolation of students. Next, we have negligence. This is failing to show the care a reasonable or prudent person would exercise under the same circumstances. Recently, we've had several cases where students were left unattended or there was a significant breakdown in communication about who was responsible for whom. Negligence can also be exposing students to physical or mental harm. Think table saw use in shop class without proper instruction or the provision of safety gear. Test security breaches may be top of mind as educators close out the year. Training is provided for securely administering state-required tests. Failure to follow the protocols, providing copies of answers or questions to students or others, or giving unauthorized assistance are all examples of test security breaches. Other good cause is defined as conduct that calls into question the fitness of an educator to hold a license, including, but not limited to, violation of any provision in the Teacher Code of Ethics as contained in Tennessee Code Annotated 4951001 and the sections that follow. We're not going to go very far into good cause today because our next session that will be available online over the summer of 2024 will deep dive into the Teacher Code of Ethics. As a reminder, districts are required to conduct some type of training around the Teacher Code of Ethics every year. Finally, related to the terms in this section, but primarily found in Section 5, we have the possession, consumption, or being under the influence of drugs and alcohol. This portion of the rule requires a particularly fact-intensive inquiry into the allegations, especially as it relates to being under the influence. Factors considered include whether a reasonable suspicion blood or breath test was taken or administered, if there are indicators of intoxication such as slurred speech, bloodshot, watery eyes, the odor of alcohol emitting from a person, unsteadiness on one's feet, sleeping through class, or an admission by the educator to possessing, consuming, or being under the influence of drugs or alcohol. A note here, reasonable suspicion drug tests and initial employment drug screens are not protected by HIPAA. These tests are not administered for the purpose of medical treatment, but instead for employment purposes. Therefore, results should be submitted to the State Board of Education Educator License Discipline Team if action is taken due to drug or alcohol use, possession, or consumption. Additionally, the severity of the recommended discipline, when it is alleged that an educator used, possessed, consumed, or is under the influence of drugs or alcohol, is impacted by the location of the incident, whether they were on school property or school premises, whether it took place at a school-related activity, and whether students were present. These terms are outlined in the definitions found in Section 1. Going back to the definitions, in Section 1, you also find types of discipline. They are formal reprimand, suspension, and revocation. Additionally, as described in Section 4, there are certain behaviors or incidents that are subject to automatic revocation. A formal reprimand is the lowest form of discipline. It is an admonishment of the educator for certain conduct under the rule, and it becomes a part of the educator's state record. Suspensions mean the nullification of an educator's license for a predetermined term, after which the educator's license can be reinstated. A suspension can be prospective or retroactive. Suspensions, unless specifically demarcated as retroactive, are prospective, meaning they begin from the date the board votes on the discipline and last for a period of time after that date. Retroactive suspensions are from a date in the past for a period of time from that date to a period of time predetermined as an end date. Revocation means nullification of an educator's license for a term of 5 years. After the 5-year period, an educator may apply for restoration. Restoration and reactivation are different. More details can be found in Section 7 of our rule. If an educator's license is suspended or revoked, they are not permitted to be in the classroom or school in any professional capacity, even if it is as a volunteer or a non-instructional position, as an aide, as a substitute, or any other position or purpose. This includes coaching. Section 2 of our rule pertains to notification. As stated previously, directors who employ licensed or permitted educators must report conduct that violates the SBE rule. Directors or their designees must do so within 30 days of the conduct or becoming aware of the conduct. Additionally, districts have a duty to respond to SBE inquiries and requests for information, including documents, videos, etc., about the reported conduct. During the fall semester, we will have additional resources pertaining to the collection and submission of evidence available on the SBE website. Reports should be made whenever a licensed teacher or administrator is suspended, dismissed, non-renewed, put on leave, resigns, or is terminated following allegations of misconduct that, if substantiated, would warrant discipline. Section 3 outlines the broad authority of the board to discipline, meaning revoke, suspend, formally reprimand, or refuse to issue or renew a license for the following conduct: conviction of a felony, conviction of possession of illegal drugs, possession, consumption, or being under the influence of alcohol or illegal drugs, falsification or alteration of documentation required for licensure or permitting, inappropriate physical contact with a student, failure to report conduct under this rule, test security breaches, educator license discipline in another state for conduct that would trigger discipline under this rule in Tennessee, other good cause, and also anything listed in sections 4 or 5, which cover automatic revocation and suspension and the ranges of discipline for different conduct, respectively. For certain qualifying conduct, an educator's license shall be in section 4, we start getting into the nitty-gritty of discipline. We start here with our most severe potential penalty and the conduct that would trigger automatic revocation. In Section 5, we also have a catch-all for similar offenses. This portion of the rule contemplates conduct that may occur out of state. We know that offenses may have different names in different jurisdictions, but if it is similar in nature to the conduct outlined in this rule, then an educator could be disciplined for it. Section 17 of the rule is a chart showing the range of discipline associated with the conduct that we've discussed today. Keep in mind that the board has the authority to discipline outside of the range for good cause shown.